Okay, so about 90% of you guys consume drugs on a daily basis, whether you know it or not. You may be thinking that you don't do drugs or that you don't take any kind of drugs, but you really do. I'm sure that many of you guys have had to cram for a test or something, or had to do a long drive home or a long drive somewhere, and you drank a cup of coffee or you had some sodas or something like that. And the truth is that caffeine is included in both of those, and it's considered a drug. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about why caffeine is considered a drug, what it is, and some of the long-term effects that it has on your body. Okay? So the first thing I'm going to explain to you is what caffeine is. Caffeine alone is a white crystal powder that tastes extremely bitter when you first try it. This is kind of a picture of the powder and what it looks like. It's mostly used to stay awake for a few hours, and it's commonly known to be in drinks like coffee or tea or Coca-Cola or something like that, which is what most people know that it's in. But what a lot of people don't know is that it's also used in stuff like chocolate or headache pills. So if you're taking Excedrin or something, it's also included in that. Alright, so now that you know what caffeine is, I'm going to explain to you why it's considered to be a drug. Caffeine is considered to be a drug because of how it affects your nervous system. It increases the amount of dopamine in your body. Okay, so this is a picture. Here's the dopamine right here, and then this is the dopamine receptors. So when you drink caffeine or any type of coffee or soda or anything, it increases that dopamine, so you have a lot more of it, so you feel more energized, but you don't have enough receptors to be taking it in. Alright, so dopamine is a neurotransmitter that controls the feel-good sense in your brain. That's what makes you feel more alert and awake even when you haven't had much sleep. Many times caffeine is compared to drugs like amphetamines, cocaine, or heroin, because those also alter the dopamine levels in your body. The difference between caffeine and the other drugs is just that caffeine's a little bit weaker, so it's not as strong as them, but it's basically like the same concept. And like any other drugs, it wears off after a while and you experience withdrawals, and that's why you feel a little bit shaky or you feel hungrier or something like that, like you want more coffee, and then you feel like you can't function without it. So now that you know what caffeine is and why it's a drug, I'd like to share with you the long-term effects. So not only do you feel fatigued and you feel like you have withdrawal symptoms and like you need to drink more coffee, but you also become depressed without it. This is kind of picture a little dog. He loves coffee and he feels all jittery and he needs more. So you feel depressed and the increased level makes you happier. Without it, you feel sad and depressed, so you want to drink more of it. But the most important thing is the problem with sleeping. And although you might drink coffee in the afternoon or a couple Cokes during the day, and you feel like you can go to sleep at night, the truth is you're not getting as deep of sleep as you should really be getting. So by drinking 100 milligrams of caffeine, which is equal to 1 cup of coffee or just a couple of sodas, you really don't get the sleep that you need. So when you wake up in the morning, you wake up feeling like you're tired again and like you need more coffee, so you drink more of it. So it's kind of an ongoing cycle of drinking more and more coffee, and then you feel more and more fatigue and you just feel worse. Alright, so today I've talked to you about what caffeine is and why it's considered to be a drug and its long-term effects. So I hope you better understand caffeine, and now you know why you feel the way you do when you drink so much of it.
So Nicole, what did you think?
I thought that her thesis that caffeine is a drug was really good, because a lot of people don't really know that. organization was really good. I thought there was a good flow to it. She had a lot of good information. She spoke clearly. It sounded like she really knew her topic. It was, I thought the way that she projected was also good. The only thing that I think seemed a little short, I don't know if that was the case.
4 minutes and 14 seconds. So half of the time that you have available. So there's a lot more that you can do. I thought that you had a nice kind of statistic, startling statement at the beginning to get our attention. It identifies the topic in a nice, effective way. Your thesis is really a preview, and so you need a little bit more focus, but you do have a good structure that you set up at the beginning of the speech, so everything starts off very promisingly. I think when you get to the material, it's a little bit underdeveloped. It stays very much at the Wikipedia level. You know, here's the data about caffeine, here's the data about how it affects you, you know, that kind of thing. So as a consequence, it doesn't really develop much personality to it. This is one of those things where you could add some of your own individual experience and make it a lot more interesting. Talk about how caffeine maybe has been used by you to study from, or how it's interrupted your sleep cycle, or tell a story about somebody who went through caffeine crashes. It seems very mundane. Like I said, it's kind of a synthesis of basic encyclopedia stuff on the subject. It's not bad information, it's just not presented in as interesting a way as it could be. Organizationally, you do stick to your organization. It's topical in nature. Some of the same problems. I know everybody, this is one of the things that happens when people first are learning to do something. They follow that direction so much. I think I used this example before about the smog thing. You know, when learning to drive, you know, you signal, mirror, over shoulder, go and say, and I can see you doing that kind of thing. You know, okay, now it's time to end the first point and move to the second point. So what am I going to do? I'm going to use that phrase that that we used as an example. Now that we're done with the first point, let's move to the second point. Now that we're done with the second point, let's move to the third point. And you're doing the right kind of thing, but you're not integrating it into your speech. It's just that mechanical sort of thing. So that's one of those things that you'll get better at. If you do this more often, it becomes more natural, and you're less, you know, just push the button next, push the button next sort of behavior. The visuals are fine. I don't think you want to explain the cartoon. All right. I think the cartoon's probably self-explanatory, and if it isn't, the people who are looking at it aren't going to get it with your explanation. You know, so it just seems a little odd that you have to tell us what the cartoon is about. That kind of takes it out of its moment and undermines its effect there. Presentation-wise, sometimes you do project pretty well, but sometimes you have these long sections where you are struggling to read what you've got and get to the next point. Once you get going again, you get away from that a little bit, but it is pretty obvious when you watch back on the video, those 3 or 4 places where, all right, now let me get back into the paragraph that I've got here, and you're struggling to do that. Thank you.